Alright, so as we get closer to coloring with our oil pastels, I wanted to show you a few tricks to keep in mind so you are ready. I just drew a simple flower. You might have some flowers in yours too, but anything you're coloring with oil pastels, you want to know how to use the tool. So, oil pastels are similar to crayon, except they have more oil and color. So your hands are going to get a little oily, but the color is much brighter than crayons. With oil pastels, they can blend, so you won't always just use the color that you see. You might try to use more than one color together. And like crayons, you might sometimes need to peel the paper away and make sure you put it in the garbage so it is out of the way. So I'm going to show you first with a few different greens how they can blend together. So I have a light, kind of a medium, and a dark. This will help create a value as well. So I'm going to start with this leaf. I'm going to start making the edge a lighter green. Now again, it's like crayon, but it's smoother, and I can keep kind of smudging it back and forth to make it bright. I'm going to use some of that medium green. Go right next to, even over top, some of that light green. And then I'm going to use the dark green. It's much darker. I'm going to go right along the edge there. Now how I've kind of colored in 3 different sections, so it's almost like there's stripes. But with oil pastels, if you color over the colors, they'll start to blend. So because the dark is so dark, I don't think I'll blend with that one. I think I'll blend with the lightest, which means I'm going to start going over on top of that medium color with my light. Now these are starting to blend together, so it's a little less of a stripe. I'm going to do the same thing with my medium. Start going on top of my dark with my medium crayon. So that line that separates them will start to disappear. They start to blend more together, and you create a gradient, or a gradual change of color. So if you layer pastels, the color will start to come onto the pastel. You might just have to wipe that off, rub it off with your hands. So that's one way with the oil pastels to do some blending, is to create that gradient. So one more time, I've got some light, I've got some medium, and I've got my dark. And it's okay if things go off the page a little bit. You'll just work with your space. I'm going to blend using kind of my medium and my green. Now if I ever wanted to use a white oil pastel, especially if I use it on top of other colors, it's not going to show up white. But I could use it to make a brighter highlight along the edge of this leaf. Right over the green. So it won't necessarily stay perfectly white. It'll start to look like a light green because it's going on top of that. And that's okay. If your Sharpie starts to get covered up, you can kind of scrape it off with your nail, or at the end you could outline with a black oil pastel as well. Sharpies don't work well on top of oil pastel, so if you want that black line to appear at the end, you can just go over with the black oil pastel. Alright, I'm going to show you one more thing on the petals, or one more example. You can even use the oil pastels to change color. So there I was using all greens. Let's say I'm going to use a red and mix it with a blue. Red and blue make purple. So right now I've got my red and I've got my blue, and I want to bring them right up next to each other. But now I want to go back and forth with the colors on top of each other. Already it's making purple right in the middle there. So as I layer back and forth, they start to blend together. Now with colors that different, it's going to be hard to get a gradual gradient. So this is where blending with your finger might actually come in handy. I'm going to blend kind of back and forth pretty lightly with my finger. That starts to blur the edge of where I was coloring. So I can make a really nice gradient even with colors that are very different. Again, I could use some white for a highlight if I want. I want to have some highlight on that edge, and it kind of turned pink because it's right with that red. I can use my finger to blend it. Oil pastels are really easy to blend and move, and they're good for mixing. Just keep in mind, if you want to use a color, you might want to clean off the edge if you've been mixing with it, because it picks up the other colors around it. If you get started with oil pastels today, keep these things in mind and color fully. So notice the spaces I colored are full. There's a little bit of paper showing, so maybe I'll even go back and really make sure those colors are full, those spaces are full of color. I don't want to see coloring that has paper showing through. That is not fully colored. If I want it a solid blue, that's fine, but I have to go in and really make sure there is no paper showing through. That's fully colored. All right, let's go.